What's up, guys? We're playing Baldur's Gate 3 today, and we're looking at the class customization section under character creation. So we got a lot of information to cover. I'm going to go as quickly as I can. We've got the Barbarian, the Bard, the Cleric, the Druid, the Fighter, the Monk, the Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. Now, pardon me, I principally want to cover the features of the classes, but I also want to briefly mention, like, based on my experience with games over a lifetime, I suppose, I've come to find that almost every game out there makes the casting classes weaker and the just straight up warrior fighter classes more powerful. That tends to be a trend. So I'm kind of leaning towards some sort of fighter type class, most likely. I chose the human to get that extra skill, but without any frame of reference, I don't exactly know how to use it. We'll get there when we get there. But let's go ahead and cover the classes. I'll let you know I'm probably going to pick one of those warrior classes, but let's just go through the details. So I'm selecting the Barbarian here, and we've got an action and a class feature, and then what happens if I click details? So the Barbarian details do include specific proficiencies, so I'll try to cover those and observe differentiations. Most of the races seem to have simple weapons and martial weapons as features, and then some basic stuff here for armor. So if I spot any differences, I'll try to call them out so that you guys can be aware of them. So for the Barbarian, we've got a class action of Rage. Deal 2 extra damage with melee and improvised weapons and throwing. Let's see. Lasts 10 turns. Rage ends early if you don't attack an enemy or take damage each turn. If you don't attack an enemy or take damage each turn. Okay, so it ends early if you don't attack or take damage. You can't cast or concentrate on spells while raging. Okay. So you deal 2 extra damage with melee and improvised weapons and throwing. So it's bonus damage, but it has, like, you know, restrictions. If you get smacked, then it ends, basically. Or if you don't do anything with it. Then you also have a class feature for unarmored defense. While not wearing armor, you add your Constitution modifier to your armor class. Wow. Wearing heavy armor impedes your rage. So while not wearing armor, you add your Constitution to your armor class. So that's pretty powerful if you're playing like the Dwarven race that has that hit point bonus. So that you would kind of want to play a Barbarian that doesn't wear armor, and then just beef out your Constitution stat. So then you have even higher health, and you're gaining more health, and then you also have more armor. So that's kind of the strategy of Barbarian. There are the proficiencies. Let's move on to the Bard. So it looks like the Bard has fewer armor proficiencies, but it gains proficiency in crossbows, longswords, rapiers, and short swords. Wait a second, short swords was... I see, so yeah, it gains other proficiencies. Let's look at the cantrips. So the cantrips, and there might be some skill differences. Let's see, oh yeah, there are. Let's cover the skill differences for Barbarian before we move forward. So they have bonus. They have athletics, which gives bonuses. It's a strength bonus. Looks like mainly athletics, and then perception would be a bonus for wisdom. Let's move on to Bard. Let's cover the skills first. Looks like bonuses to history, intelligence and history, intelligence and investigation. Well, let's see here. Intelligence stat. Let's see, intelligence. Let's see. Charisma. That's a significant charisma bonus. Charisma. So the Bard is clearly charisma and intelligence, whereas the Barbarian is obviously strength. They have more weapon proficiencies, unique weapon proficiencies, fewer armor proficiencies. Let's look at the cantrips. So the cantrips looks like Vicious Mockery, it's a psychic damage, enchantment. Insult a creature, it has disadvantage on its next attack roll. Huh. So that's wisdom save, okay. Abjuration cantrip. So Abjuration, enchantment. Take only half the damage from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks for 2 turns. That's significant. Then it looks like they have a healing spell. Looks like psychic damage, enchantment spell. So we have enchantment spell, abjuration cantrip, abjuration, enchantment, evocation, enchantment, enchantment. Let's see. Leave a creature prone with laughter, heroism. We won't cover these in detail because this would be something for another video. Let me briefly look at the cantrips to see. Oh yeah, so you can select from a variety of cantrips. It looks like. What happens if... Okay, yeah. So you can select from cantrips, you can select from spells. We'll cover those in individual videos for each class. In this video, we'll just cover the actions and the spell slots here for class features. Sorry, not spell slots. Class features and actions, okay? So, special cantrips and special spells. Obviously, a class that specializes in charisma and intelligence, with charisma seeming to be the focus for this bard class. So, class actions. Inspire an ally to add a 1d6 plus 1d6 bonus to their next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw until a long rest. 18-minute cooldown, looks like. Bonus action. Class features. Level 1 spell slots unlocked. You gain 2 level 1 spell slots, which are restored on a long rest. Okay. That's significant, pardon me. And that's pretty much it for the Bard. You can see the primary ability up here in the stats, so we can probably just look at that instead of having to break that down. So up here, obviously Strength, secondary Constitution for the Barbarian. Primary stat for the Bard is Charisma, secondary should be Intelligence. Well, the secondary and the saving on the skills was Intelligence, but it looks like they have high Dexterity also. So that's pretty interesting. You might be able to... Can you drop these? Ah, I see. So you can customize those points later on. So we'll get there when we get there, when I do a video on that. But it looks like the main thing we need to be aware of is the primary attribute, and then where they're getting bonuses at the skill levels, right? Doesn't show anything for these. Okay, so let's move on to the next class, the Cleric. So looks like the Cleric has a bonus to Morning Star weapons, proficiency to Morning Star weapons, and then they have, looks like, typical armor features to the melee classes, a bunch of cantrips. Their primary stat is Wisdom. Let's look at their skills. Looks like Intelligence, 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 Wisdom, Charisma. So actually most of their skills give bonuses to Intelligence. Pardon me. And then a lot of spell slots. Let's look at the class features. Level 1 spell slots unlocked, and then domain spells. You gain spells from your domain. They are always prepared, so that's interesting. Looks like subclasses: life domain, light domain, trickery domain, knowledge domain. Let's see what life domain gives. Disciple of life. Your devotion empowers your healing spells. When casting a healing spell, the target regains additional hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. Oh, so that's significant. So life, warding flare, shield. Looks like a shield. Let's see, this one, trickery, looks like grant another creature advantage on stealth checks. Okay. Knowledge, nature, tempest, war. So that's very unique. It's a unique, looks like a unique support class, pretty much. And then under these, looks like you can select a deity. Golly, there's a great deal to configure under the cleric class. So you have to spend a while really pondering that. Let's move on though. I just wanted to cover the basics. So the druid. Looks like a couple of cantrips. What's the primary stat? Wisdom. Down here we see intelligence, 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 wisdom, and charisma. Looks like they have an animal handling ability. They are the clerics after all. Let's look at the details here. Looks like a lot of unique weapon proficiencies. Clubs, daggers, javelins, maces, quarterstaffs, scimitars, sickles, and spears. Nothing in the armor section. So some unique weapons. Looks like class features for spell slots. And then looks like just cantrips. Nothing in terms of subclasses. You just have to select cantrips and and the spells that you have available for the class. So the druid is definitely a unique spellcaster hybrid class. Let's move on to the fighter. They only have one action, healing action. Draw on your stamina to heal yourself. That's unique. Did I cover anything with the... I don't think I covered anything with the druid. Here, let me see here. Transmutation and Thorn Whip. So yeah, there's too much to cover with the druid. Obviously spells and transmutations and healings and probably summons and stuff. Anyways, the fighter can self-heal from their stamina. Looks like they have basic weapon proficiency, but then they have bonuses to heavy armor and shields. Let me see. Looks like heavy armor is something that they get an advantage to. Over here they have strength as their primary, and then let's look at their skills. Looks like strength, intelligence, charisma. So that would probably be like strength and charisma would probably be the ones that you would want to look at. Looks like charisma is secondary by default. That's curious. But, I mean, you might want to go into constitution. Anyways, so fighter, super simple, super straightforward. Probably one of the strongest classes, I would guess. Anyways, moving on to the monk. And actually, did we have anything? Oh, a fighting style. Let's take a look at this. Oh, specific fighting style. Archery. Defense, dueling, okay, great weapon fighting, protection, 2-weapon fighting. Oh, okay, man, that adds a whole other, dynamic to that. We'll have to cover that in a special video. So, moving on to the monk, looking at the details, no armor proficiencies listed here. That might be a bug, actually, because it's listed over here. Well, that might be the racial proficiency, but no proficiency in the class. Looks like simple weapons, no martial weapon, just a short sword proficiency. Under the actions, we have Flurry of Blows, 6 to 12 damage, and then bonuses on bludgeoning, punch twice in quick succession. So that's an unarmed ability, I suppose. Then we have a bunch of class features. Ki is the magic that flows through all living beings. You can use it to exceed your body's physical capabilities. That sounds promising. Unarmored defense. Your reflexes are as effective as any armor. While not wearing armor, you add your wisdom modifier to your armor class. Wow. But then they say the primary attribute is dexterity for this class. So maybe, I don't know how that's supposed to work. It might be different. See, that's one of the reasons all the specialty classes on mini games, they often like split between 2 stats, which makes them less effective than classes that specialize in just one stat, Anyways, the skills show dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. Dexterity seems to be pretty unique. Anyways, martial arts, dexterous attacks. Attacks with monk weapons and unarmed attacks scale with your dexterity instead of your strength if your dexterity is higher. Okay, so yeah, you definitely want to go dexterity, I suppose. Martial arts deft strikes. Attacks with monk weapons and unarmed attacks deal 1 to 4 bludgeoning damage unless their normal damage is higher. Okay, so there are monks. I guess you can go to a monk weapon build, but this one is... It's just like a punching ability, so I don't know why you would not want to go unarmed. After making an attack, martial arts bonus unarmed strike. After making an attack with a monk weapon or while unarmed, you can make another unarmed attack as a bonus action. Hey, that's pretty cool. So that seems promising. It's kind of odd that there's such a split in terms of the armor, though, while not wearing armor. So you kind of like split between dexterity and wisdom is what it seems like. But anyways, that's an interesting class. I don't see any other features. Let's move on. Paladin. Looks like they have basic weapon proficiencies and then specialization in all armor types, including heavy armor. Their actions are lay on hands, 4 healing. Use your blessed touch to heal a creature or cure it of all diseases and poisons. That's strong. No effect on undead and constructs, okay. Divine Sense, gain an advantage on attack rolls against celestials, fiends, and undead. 2 turns. Those are the actions. Then we have class features. Channel Oath charges 1. You gain the ability to channel the power contained in your Paladin Oath, which you can use to fuel certain actions. Okay. So then you click a subclass of an oath. So this oath heals, and we won't get into all this. This oath, let's see here. It's thorns, it sounds like. This oath is weapon attacks deal damage, so it's a buff. So it's kind of semi-support. Anyways, let's take a look over here. So they have the primary stat is strength. Looks like strength, intelligence, charisma. So that's similar to the warrior. Strength and charisma bonuses, probably affected also by these spells that they can. These actions or spells. You have to look real close at the subclasses, of course. Anyways, let's move on to the ranger. Looks like they have typical armor and weapon proficiencies. Let's look at the cantrip. Gain advantage on your next attack roll. True strike. So that's looks like concentration, 18-minute cooldown. Let's look at the. Looks like they have a beast taming ability. Find familiar. Summon a familiar, a fey spirit that takes an animal form of your choosing. 18-minute cooldown. Or maybe that's not 8. My bad. I've been saying 18-minute cooldown. Maybe that's just 18-meter casting range. My apologies. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's look at so dexterity, primary attribute. Let's look at the skills. Dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. So I'm guessing dexterity is the primary thing there. Let's look at this here. Favorite enemy, natural explorer. What is this? Studying the tactics of abilities of certain creatures has granted you a set of abilities that is useful in a variety of situations. I see. So, history of battling spellcasters, proficiency in arcana, and can cast True Strike. Oh, it's special abilities. So it changes your loadout. Gain proficiency in history and armor proficiency. Oh, you can become a ranger that can use heavy armor. Okay, so there's a lot of neat features. You have to really dig into those. Let's look at the other one, Natural Explorer. Years of traveling in the wild have made you particularly attuned to beasts or adept at surviving in certain environments. Okay, so you have a beast tamer, proficiency in sleight of hand, so that's like theft stuff, I guess. Resistance to cold, fire, poison. Okay, so the ranger has some really unique features, it seems like. But let's go ahead and move on. It's kind of like, how would you say? It's like specialization in certain enemy types, and then also some interesting survival features. Anyways, let's move on to the rogue. So the rogue looks like light armor, so they have a limitation, and then some quicker weapon proficiencies. Looks like primary attribute in dexterity. Let's take a look at the skills. Looks like dexterity, double values looks like another dexterity ability. Another dexterity ability for stealth, helps you with hiding, helps you with pick locks and pockets and disarm traps, resist being shoved. Dexterity, let's see, intelligence, charisma. So looks like dexterity and charisma are the primary attributes there for the skill abilities. Let's take a look at these actions. Looks like sneak attack, melee, deal extra damage to a foe. You have advantage against. Okay, that's cool. Sneak attack, ranged, kind of the same thing. That's simple. I like simple. So it looks like the rogue has special bonuses to those skills for stealth, pickpocket, and some of these other things, and then they just have like bonus damage on advantages. There's no like, doesn't seem to be any subclass features, so it's pretty simple. Anywho, let's move on to the sorcerer. Looks like they have no armor proficiencies, but some weapon stuff for daggers, quarterstaffs, crossbows. Let's look. I won't go into the cantrips because there's going to be a lot of options here. Obviously, they're a damage-dealing class from a spell standpoint. class features, level 1 spell slots. Let's look at the skills. Looks like Charisma. That's interesting. The Sorcerer's primary attribute is Charisma. Usually it would be Intelligence or Wisdom, right? Well, it'd be mainly Intelligence, so it's kind of unusual that it's Charisma. Spellcasting for Sorcerers and Warlocks. What is Intelligence? It's got to be damage, right? Oh, that's just for Wizards? Okay. That's like one stat for one class? That's a little bit of a strange choice. Let's see, Arcana, Intelligence, Charisma, Charisma, wow. The Sorcerer has a lot of stuff for Charisma, apparently. Let's look at the subclasses briefly. We've got Wild Magic. So that would be advantage on your attack roll, ability, or saving throw. Wild Magic stems from the forces of chaos, turns within sorcerers that wield it waiting to burst free. Okay. Increased chance of Wild Magic Surge. Okay. Let's look at Draconic, that's Wild Magic. Draconic Bloodline. Hit point maximum increases by 1 for each sorcerer level. Okay, that's unique. Dragon-like scales cover parts of your skin when you aren't wearing armor. Your base armor class is 13. Okay, so this is like a tankly sorcerer. And it looks like there's another ability here, too. Storm Sorcerer. After you cast a level 1 spell or higher, you can fly as a bonus action until the end of your turn without receiving opportunity attacks. That's pretty fancy, huh? Anyways, we can't cover the rest, but that's interesting. Sorcerer class is very interesting. A charisma-based caster, which means that they have a lot of persuasion capability also. That could be a very effective class in this kind of game. Moving on to the Warlock. Looks like simple weapons and light armor. Wow, they don't even get to wield staves? That's curious. Let's look at their, looks like charisma based also. They got skills for intelligence, charisma. Looks like fewer slots for cantrips. What's their class feature? Warlock spell slots. Okay. Let's look at the subclass briefly. So, the Fiend. Warlocks in the service to fiends. Work towards corrupting, destructive ends, hellish blessings. Okay. Let's look at the subclass features. When you reduce a hostile creature to 0, this gift from your patron grants you 4 temporary hit points. Okay. That's interesting. The Great Old One. This one is when you land a critical hit against a creature, that creature and any nearby enemies must succeed a wisdom saving throw or become frightened until the end of their next turn. Okay, that's interesting. The Archfey, the next one, looks like class action is to charm or frighten nearby foes with Wild Fey's beguiling, disturbing magics. Okay. 3-meter cast range. I was saying cooldown before, my bad. So those are interesting. We don't have time, obviously, to look at all the the spells, but looks like there's a variety of enchantments, transmutations, etc. Okay, let's move on to the last class on the list, which is Wizards. They have 3 cantrip slots and a bunch of spell slots, actions. So let's look at the proficiencies. No armor proficiency, but proficiencies with daggers, quarterstaffs, and crossbows. Primary stat is intelligence. And let's see what they have in their skills. Intelligence, wisdom, charisma, and charisma. So it's intelligence and charisma. And then under the class action, Arcane Recovery, replenish spell slots while out of combat. You cannot restore spell slots above the 5th level. Replenish spell slots while out of combat. Okay, that's interesting. Level 1 spell slot class feature. Let's look briefly at, not the spells, but what is this prepare spell section? You can only cast from a limited selection of spells at a time. Select which spells you have prepared from the total list of spells you know. Spells must be prepared outside of combat. Okay, so there's sort of a maintenance aspect to it. But they have a lot of spells that they can learn and choose from, and then they have that one damage. But I don't know, like this the intelligence thing here, memory and mental power improve spell casting. Okay. Intelligence checks. I mean, like all the classes that have to be split between two stats, it doesn't seem like very advantageous. Anyways, so that's pretty much it. That's just a quick rundown of all the classes and some of their core abilities and some of the skills that they pull from and their primary and secondary attributes and stuff like that. Obviously, depending on what it's attractive to you, you might want to, dig deeper into the subclasses and specific spells. It could take you quite a while. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.